Bullard over there. How you doing today? It is Saturday. We are in June. Another OTA is under the belt. One more to go. And we're here to talk to you, with you, about it. We have 3 themes today. First theme is going to be, how good can that offense in 2022, that's this year, be? Yes, I can do my math. Theme 2, Vikings roster churn. It was churning this week. We wonder why it was churning. We'll tell you why. We'll get there. And then the third theme, we answer your questions to close out the show. And there are some great ones. But it gets started right now. Climb in the Pocket, Daily Norseman, and Lake Monster Brewing presents 2 Old Bloggers. Here we are, another day. We've got myself, Dave Stefano, and over there on the viewer's left, Darren Campbell. We are your 2 Old Bloggers. We've been doing it now for about 2 decades, a little bit over, in the public forum where we comment on your Minnesota Vikings. And we all wish they win at least 1, preferably 10, before we die. How you doing, Darren?
I'm doing good. Can I just say I love that intro? It just gets me fired up.
That's
ready
cool.
To go. Let's talk Vikings.
Absolutely.
Nobody's complaining about how long it is anymore.
That's right.
I haven't heard a peep about the intro since you changed it and shortened it. So awesome work.
Cool. Well, welcome Drew, Purple Haze, and Jeffrey to the show already. And there is Nobel War Prize. I still think that's a great name. Giving us greetings. And Nobel, along with Drew, we have your questions featured in the final theme today. Now, we go off to here. The first theme of the day, once I scroll down, bada boom, theme number 1. You wanted to talk about offensive rankings. And were they offensive?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the offense in general, and big focused in the off season. You hire a new coach who's an offensive minded head coach who was a former offensive coordinator for the team that just won the Super Bowl, and you're going from you had a defensive minded coach beforehand, so there's expectations, I think, that the Vikings that Kevin O'Connell is going to take the Vikings offense somewhere that we haven't seen in a decade or more, probably since the 2009 zombie Brett Favre year. But you got those rankings up there, David. Just looking at them, I'm throwing them out there for you. Just wanted to set some context for this. But in 2021, the Vikings offense was ranked 14th in points up there, 12th in yards. That's what that's for. In 2020, it was 11th in points and 4th in yards. Now, Football Outsiders, some of you folks may check out their analytics-driven site, and I think they do very good work. It's not gospel, but it's a one ranking that I like to check out. And in 2021, they had the Vikings offensive DVOA, which is their ranking, defensive value, whatever the hell it stands for. But anyway, it's basically your ranking for your offense and your defense as well, and special teams. They rank them all 16th in the NFL. Last year, and 27th in rushing, which is like very, very bad. I think the
With a
offensive
head coach
line.
that said rush the ball more.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? You're terrible at rushing the ball, and your coach wants to rush the ball. In 2020, though, I didn't include the rushing DVOA, but they were 8th overall in offensive DVOA. That's very good. So what the takeaway from this is, if it's not obvious enough, is that the Vikings offense regressed in
Yes.
2021. And that's despite the fact that Justin Jefferson had a monster year. Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen basically had just as good a years in 2021 as they did in 2020. They didn't regress. You had KJ Osborn who emerged. Tyler Conklin gave the Vikings at tight end pretty much the same, if not better, production than they got from Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith the year before. The only thing that was down was that Dalvin Cook missed 3 games, and he wasn't as dominant in 2021 as he had been in 2020. But again, there's no doubt if you watched games last year and you were like shaking your head about the 5 3-and-outs that the Vikings did, they led the NFL in 3-and-outs, 5 3-and-outs in a row, game after game after game. Sometimes it seemed like more. You know that the Vikings offense was not what it should be. But now we've got Kevin O'Connell. So what can we expect? How much better can the Vikings offense be? And what is going to make the difference for this team in 2022 to make it an offense that's really humming and in the top 10 or even, higher than that? And I think that, a lot of us are viewing Kevin O'Connell as the guy that he can bring that needed extra, knowledge, better plays, better play calling. But really, and it's been said before, it's that I think the subtraction of Clint Kubiak from the mix is what could, what's that going to be worth to the Vikings as far as wins? 1 win, 2 wins, maybe 3. Yeah, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. Like, Clint Kubiak, and last year, and I know that these days we're in kind of everybody's piling on Mike Zimmer. He was the worst coach ever.
Yeah, beat that horse. Beat it.
David, you're so excited. I feel that that narrative has to change a little bit. Zimmer did do some very good things with the Vikings and took them in a place when he got them in 2014 and, got them to the NFC Championship game. After that, things kind of fell. But there's no doubt that the hiring of Clint Kubiak, in my mind, as an offensive coordinator, was one of the laziest hires you'll ever see in the NFL. And then, that was just lazy, no thought to it. Hey, we're going to put.
Hey, son of. Let's hire him. Son of him. Yeah. Son of him. Son of him.
So Kubiak looked overmatched last year. I think the results prove that. Now, Kevin O'Connell hasn't called plays at the NFL level. We know that. But he certainly, he got the front row seat with one of the best in the business and Sean McVay last year, watching him call plays for a couple of years. And Kevin O'Connell, to me, seems like a very confident, comfortable in his own skin, comfortable in what he's doing as a head coach and as an offensive mind. He's come in, he's been ultra confident the whole time. No games played yet, mind you, but anyway, I like what I've seen from him, from his demeanor, from what he says, how he acts. And I think that makes a difference. I also now, does Kevin O'Connell just himself, does a coaching change mean that the Vikings automatically improve that 5-6 spots, become a top 10 defense? Of course, that's not the only difference. And we know that the offensive the players that we have on the Vikings right now haven't really changed from last year. They didn't really add any big free agents. They got what they got. They didn't draft any offensive players too high except for Ed Ingram. So it's a lot of the same guys. But I think if Kevin O'Connell, if you've got, so they got to, they're going to have to take those players and do something different with them than what's been done the past couple. But I think if you got a coach who's coaching those offensive players up instead of coaching them down, if you've got an offensive coordinator and a head coach calling the plays who knows what the hell he's doing and is confident in what he's doing, and if you've got a head coach, now you're playing for a head coach that's the Vikings offensive players. If they're playing for a head coach who is comfortable playing in an offense rooted in the 2020s, I think that is going to make a big difference for the Vikings offense and being able to put our playmakers, and we have a lot of playmakers, in the positions to succeed and get this offense where it needs to be. And where it needs to be is in the top 10 or higher in 2022.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I don't
without a
know how
doubt.
you feel about it. I don't know how you feel about it, David. But again, really, to me, the switch from O'Connell to Kubiak calling plays is like 100%. Like, that's a big win for the Vikings. It's a big win for the Vikings offense and the Vikings offensive players like Cook, Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and the whole bunch.
Now, we have not seen it yet, but I suspect that he will do much better at it than Kubiak did. One, he's an ex-quarterback. He's used to the flow of play, how plays go, the whole works, right? He's not son of a coach. He was a player. I think his infectious, you see him smiling and clapping and hearing all the things about how the guys love him, how the whole attitude is different. Whether it was what's his face, your favorite cornerback, Boyd, that went on this week and talked about puckered assholes, pardon my language,
Yep.
on
All
podcast.
Things Covered podcast.
Yep. I think that's different. I think that alone will help. Now, there is one key factor to that, and that is, the one and only Kirk Cousins. This week on Purple Daily, a leadership expert came up and said he's done it for decades, analyzes him, and he says Kirk is a very analytic type of guy. He likes to prove it. He's not a rah-rah, likes to prove it via his work. He's very fastidious, and he likes things organized. If that can stay that way, and Kevin can play to that, and then maybe let him expand his leadership envelope, I could very well see us picking up 3, 4, maybe even 5 more wins. But it's going to take a lot. But I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about it. And I very, very much look forward to it. O'Connell's dad was an FBI agent as well. I didn't know that, Drew. Thank you very much. And Brian says, he will not be run-centric. Yes, that is correct. The run will be just a little bit of spice, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, based on a pass-centric game. And
But when the Rams offense was at its best under McVay the whole time, like most offenses, they were running the ball effectively. They're not just like a pass, run and shoot
right.
kind of team. Like they like to run the ball, and if it's working, they will keep on running it. But there's no dictate from the head coach coming down saying, you must run the ball or I'm going to get rid of your ass.
If it's second and 9, you'll run. If it's third and 9, you're going to run.
No. Because that's what we do here.
Right.
Yeah. Those days are gone.
Yes, I agree. And I look forward to it. Which brings us to our second theme. I should hook these up with some audio bits.
A little bit of music.
Yeah. Aaron says maybe we won't be as predictable every play. That's what we're hoping for, Aaron. Now, he wants to, the deception, whatever quote he does. He wants
the illusion of complexity is the term.
And he wants everything to look the same, but it run a myriad of different plays from that same type of formation, and that's the way it should be. Our second theme today is roster churning. We've had some movement in the roster. Normally with roster churning, what it means is the bottom of the roster keeps moving off. It's a way to keep extra guys in not on the 93, but be in the bigger group so that when one falls off, another one bumps up and then back and forth. And they do this all season. with the bottom end of the roster. They move people off for a week or two, then they move back on and move back. But this is preseason. We're in OTAs, and there's some roster churning. And the reason for it this time is injuries. Is it not?
For the most part, yes, and that, like we've said on a few shows, is that we want the off season for the Vikings to be quiet, like because when you get news in the off season, it's usually bad news. Somebody got hurt, somebody got arrested, somebody is assaulted somebody, got caught with drugs, so yeah, you don't want news involving the Vikings in the off season. And this week we got some, like you said, roster churning. The first one of the first ones was that the Vikings signed Albert Wilson, wide receiver, formerly started with the Chiefs, been with the Dolphins the last 2 years, and the Vikings signed him, I believe, because Ihmir Smith-Marsette is in a walking boot now and has been shut down for the rest of the OTAs, and he won't be back until training camp. Albert Wilson, is he going to be a factor with the Vikings? I don't think so. Again, this is a bottom of the roster pickup. He did have some decent years with the Kansas City Chiefs, caught over 40 balls a couple of times, but the last 2 years he's only averaged averaged under 9 yards per catch, which is not very much for a guy who's a smallish, speedier wide receiver. I think he's in to provide depth, a bit of a hedge in case that Ihmir Smith-Marsette is not ready to go in training camp. So we've got numbers. I don't think Albert Wilson is going to have any impact with the Vikings at all, and I don't want him to, because he's going to turn 30 in July, so he's not a young guy. I want the Vikings to invest in Ihmir Smith-Marsette, who at the end of last year started making some plays the last 2 games, and I think I've said it before, he looked like a much different player and a much better player the last couple of games last year than he did in preseason, when he couldn't catch anything, couldn't get open. I thought he improved. I'm really excited to see what he can do under Keenan McCardell again in the second year. So I want him to be getting the reps. I want him to be getting the work in OTAs and in training camp and in preseason. I don't want Albert Wilson to be doing that. And the same thing with, let's not forget, BC Johnson coming back from the knee injury this year. And the 6th round rookie, Jalen Naylor. Those are 3 younger guys, all much younger than Wilson. So really, I want to see the Vikings, invest in those guys, not in Albert Wilson. But you gotta have a roster of 90 guys, so that's the way it goes. You got Dede Westbrook up there, a very strange situation. They worked him out. We're going to sign him instead of Wilson, and then he didn't get back to them in time. So
they left him a message: "Call us, we want you," and he never responded. So that's odd.
Well, if you look at how he was used with the Vikings last year, and or not used, he may not have been all that keen on coming back to the Vikings, knowing that I'm going to be the 4th or 5th guy on the depth chart if I make the team at all. Maybe I can hook on with another team and get a bigger role. Maybe that had something to do with it. But as a professional, you should at least call the team back and tell them, no, I'm not interested. You worked out for them, so you must have had some interest.
You talked about Jalen Naylor here. OTA picture. That doesn't inspire confidence in me, but I hope he turns out too. Now, the one thing about Wilson that we didn't cover is he is a kickoff returner. He has done that in the pros. Whether he's any good at it, I don't remember. He has not done punt returns, but he has done kickoff returns. However, our kickoff returner spot seems pretty well anchored in with Kenny Nwangwu.
Yeah,
but
it's Wang Chung and nobody else there.
Yeah, basically.
I think Wilson did return punts in college at Georgia State, but has not done it as a pro level.
And so it's a totally different. I mean, a kickoff return, the ball's coming in one way, lower trajectory, it spins different, and you've got space to set up how you want to do. You can look into stuff. Punting is totally different. It's coming in knuckled. There's different types of kicks, and you're looking up the ball, trying to catch the ball, and you don't have the time. You don't. It's a totally different type of
It
returning
is.
position.
And if he hasn't done it since college, I would say that that's almost like never doing it at all,
Right.
because it's been a long time.
In WP, roster churning doesn't affect Sean Mannion yet. So anything I can say is yet.
It's all up to Kellen Mond in that case, because if Mond outplays him, then Sean Mannion won't be on the team, or at least he'll be like the third QB who doesn't dress.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Troy, you're right. If we had an offensive-minded coach when we had Patterson, that may have gone much, much better.
But was Patterson ready to do the things he's done the past couple of years with the Falcons? Was he mature enough to do those things back then?
Maybe not. Yeah.
Speculation.
You talked about the BC and Naylor, and there I have him with ISM. I think that's the lower half of the wide receiver room.
Oh, yes.
We shall see. But to make room for Mr. Wilson, the Vikings released a.k.a. Axl Rose.
Last year's preseason stud. Well, he wasn't that studly, but because the Vikings were awful on offense in the preseason. But yeah, AJ Rose got cut. I'm not really surprised there, because I really think that if you look at the Vikings running back situation, it's pretty clear. You got Dalvin Cook, and then everybody else, and that everybody else is Madison as a backup and his meat and potatoes running style. I think the Vikings are comfortable with him. I think that your number 3 guy is going to be Chandler. It's going to be a battle between Chandler and Kenny Willekes, and whoever picks up the offense best. And then this also indicates, to me, the release of Rose indicates that the undrafted rookie free agent from Toledo has looked pretty good in OTAs, and the Vikings are interested in keeping him either on the roster, or they are going to put him on the practice squad. And there just wasn't any room for Rose, I don't think. And I know Rose last year, he had a good preseason. He was the Vikings' best offensive player in the preseason. But when I saw him run, I saw a guy that, and football expert here, but he didn't look sudden enough to me. He didn't look elusive enough to me. I didn't think that he had a future as an NFL running back. Not a guy getting a lot of carries.
I like the spins. That he did well.
I thought Axl Rose was he was a guy, and the Vikings kept him because he'd had a pretty decent rookie preseason, but I didn't think he had much of a future in the NFL as an impact player, or even a semi-impact player. And I think that the Vikings feel they've got much better options in their running back room than Rose, and that's why he's gone. But I hope that he catches on with another team and gets some gainful employment in the NFL.
You had talked about there's a 5th running back in the running back room, so it's not like we're depleted in the final 4. We have 5. Who's this gentleman?
That's Toledo, the Toledo running back, Kobach, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Brian Kobach.
And really, yeah, like Aaron, that's true. Blasingame, though, has done okay for himself in Tennessee, though, the past few years, but as a fullback. But yeah, Kobach is he very impressive college career at Toledo. A guy that runs tough, can catch the ball well, is more elusive and quicker than you would think. At least, and I watched highlights of him, and he wasn't playing against the best competition at Toledo. You got to take that into account. But damn, the guy was productive, and scouts did like him. Not enough to get him drafted, but he could be kind of a Mike Boone guy who really shows up. And I always liked Booner. Too bad he got injured last year when he signed with Denver, because he probably could have he would have played quite a bit with the Broncos with the running back situation they have. But Kobach could be a guy. His rookie year, he probably might be practice squad, bottom of the roster if he makes the team at all.
Right.
But he's a guy you can develop, keep on your team. if he shows promise. And I think that what I've seen in the highlights is that he's more promising than AJ Rose.
Which is good. We want that. More promise.
That's right.
The other person that got injured was your breakout player, Kenny Willekes.
Yeah, I was really.
Hey,
yeah, this one was. I'm disappointed for Willekes. I don't know what his role was going to be in a 3-4 this year with the defense that the Vikings are running and Ed Donatel is running. He seems to me he's more of a classic 4-3 defensive end than like a 3-4 guy, either a 3-4-5 technique end. I don't think he's big enough to be playing that kind of role. So would he have been a stand-up rushing linebacker, which is something he didn't. I don't think he's ever did at the college level. But so initially when this designation was announced, I thought it was a bit fishy because I thought, like, what are the Vikings like? We don't know what the injury was. How serious is it that they're going to like? Yeah, like how serious is it that they like waive him with an injury designation? But he cleared waivers. He's now on IR with the Vikings, so they still have him. But I'm disappointed because Willekes is a guy that's got great motor, great energy, gives you all he's got every time he's on the field. Does he sometimes get stymied by bigger, stronger tackles? We've seen that. Yes, that was a problem in college too. But we saw games last year when he played, particularly Green Bay at Lambeau. No impact at all. But we also saw games, particularly against the Ravens and against the Bears in the final game, where he made a great impact. Was the Vikings probably one of their best pass rushers, multiple pressures, got sacks. I like Willekes. I hope that he's got a future with the Vikings. They can find a way to work him. It's too bad that now in his 3 NFL seasons, 2 of them have been ended pretty much by injury. But at least the Vikings got him back. I feel that there's something there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was disappointed that they waived him. And that I guess the thing is we're not really sure. The Vikings have a lot of options, a lot of depth at the defensive line and linebacker position, but we don't know how good that is. Like, is Janarius Robinson, is he going to do anything this year? Willekes, we weren't really sure. And again, there's just a lot of uncertainties there. And then the Vikings signed Jonathan Bullard to take Willekes' roster spot. Well, Bullard's,
he's a journeyman.
He's a guy. 3.5 sacks in 6 seasons in the NFL. Never really been a starter. Been a backup. Doesn't play a lot. I don't think there's anything to discover there with Bullard. But they had a roster spot, and they picked up Bullard to fill it. But I don't think you'll see Bullard on the team when they break training camp, or I shouldn't say break training camp, but when the season starts and they go down to the final cuts. I'm not expecting Jonathan Bullard to be one of the guys who survives the cuts.
Right. Jonathan just posted that there's a rumor about Bradbury going to the 49ers. Is that plausible? I have not heard that. I have not seen that. None of my contacts have told me that. If you've got some evidence who reported it, I'm more than willing to entertain it. It's an interesting thought, and we will get into the offensive line here shortly.
Now, Mac was with the 49ers, right?
Who?
The center that Aaron was talking about?
True.
Yeah. So they've got a hole
no,
there.
he's talking about Bradbury going there, and their center just retired.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's sort of connecting the dots there, but
okay.
Interesting. But if you were the 49ers and you're looking for a replacement for former All-Pro, I don't think Garrett Bradbury's the guy. I don't think Garrett Bradbury's the guy I'm bringing in, but I could be wrong. I'm sure. The other thing is the Vikings don't have, like, if they trade Bradbury, like, who's your center? I guess we're going to talk.
Well, that brings us into their next guy, Mr. Chris Reed.
we are starting to learn, David, this week. Reed got interviewed, and he gave us a little bit of a glimpse into how the Vikings offensive line and how things might be shaping up there. And of course, left tackle, right tackle, and left guard are sewn up. It's going to be Darisaw, O'Neill on the tackles, Ezra Cleveland at left guard. Meth habit. A good one, Drew. I couldn't agree more. But
Hey, I endorse that, Drew, if he takes him.
But the right tackle spot, and Bradbury looks like he's going to be center unless he gets traded to the 49ers, but we'll leave that into the rumors category. But right tackle, Chris Reed was talking. He said a couple interesting things. One was that right now the competition's wide open at right guard, and so that there's a lot of people in the mix. He's in the mix. That's good because, David, I think that you are you particularly of all the options, Jesse Davis, Wyatt Davis, maybe Ed Ingram, and then Chris Reed. I think you liked Reed, and you were kind of hoping he might take the bull by the horns and take the right guard spot.
If he does not take the center spot.
That's the other thing. Yeah.
Right now, though, you talk about battling for the right guard. The majority of, and this is just OTAs, majority of the right guard snaps are going to this individual, Mr. Jesse Davis, of the first team.
Which isn't surprising because I think we kind of felt that he was a guy that the Vikings signed relatively early in free agency. He had played guard, had played okay. The Vikings seem to like okay when it becomes with their interior players, okay or worse. But at least Reed is in the mix. But Reed also said that he is being considered, and he can play all the interior positions, and that he is being considered. He thinks he's being considered to be the backup center behind Bradbury, which I think is very interesting because if Bradbury struggles like he did last year, midway through the year, and the Vikings decide we're going to bench him, then I guess, we were wondering a few weeks ago, well, who's the backup center if Bradbury sucks ass? Well, it looks like it's going to be Chris Reed, and that makes me feel a little bit better. The only thing that wouldn't make me feel better is if Reed won the starting right guard job, Bradbury sucks ass, and then the Vikings decide they're going to switch, and then we're doing the same crap that we were doing under Mike Zimmer, where there's like churn on the offensive line and guys are playing in spots all over the place, and they're guard, they're center, they're a tackle, blah blah blah, right? Like so.
But you put the best 5 guys out there. It's what I worry about is that they're keeping him back and not having the best 5 guys out there because they want him to be able to do both guard and center, even though he's probably better at one or the other or both. And they play Bradbury at center and Jesse Davis at guard, and then the best guy at either one of those positions is backup. Yeah, that's right. What I'm afraid of. Whether that happens or not is yet to be seen, but that is my fear going into this so far.
So, Dave, I think what you're saying is that you're okay with Davis being Jesse Davis being the right guard, but how about Chris Reed being your center? Is that kind of what you think that could potentially be the best 5?
If that's the best 5, if Chris Reed's a better center than Bradbury, have him play center and put Jesse Davis at right guard. Now, this week, there's been some O-line observations, right? We've had OTAs. We have had all the OTAs except for the last one, which is next week, which is abbreviated because they've already told the guys they got the last day off or whatever they're doing on that day. This is Chad Graff from The Athletic, behind the paywall. But I'm only quoting a section of his deal. Yeah. He talks about how Jesse Davis remained at right guard most of the snaps. Chris Reed was the second team with Kyle Hinton second team at left guard. That sort of bothers me, gives me heart palpitations because I don't think Hinton is that good. Let's pray that Ezra Cleveland stays healthy. On that stuff. Now, he said both Wyatt Davis and Ed Ingram, and I think Ed Ingram will probably be the best out of all of them when it comes, all said and done. He may take a year to develop, but I think he's going to be the best. Are sitting there on the third team. Come on, Rook Dogs. Now, and I'll throw Wyatt Davis in there as a Rook Dog because he didn't, see squat last year.
Nope.
Earn your keep. Now, granted, it's only OTAs. You're only in shorts. You're not in pads. You're not hitting anything. But what I liked about this quote that Chad got was that when O'Connell's looking at the tape, he's looking for their first move. And he's looking, and this is highly important. I agree with O'Connell on this, is how you come off the ball. What's the first thing you do? Are you getting to the guy you're supposed to? Are you in the position you're supposed to? Are your hands placed where they're supposed to or not? Are you in the proper position to make those? And that you can see from the tape. And it's, I like the fact that he's looking at that. O'Connell's looking at that. I think that alone is going to help make this team better, this offensive line better. Because do you think Mr. Beat on the Dead Horse was looking at that stuff? No, he was looking at what his defensive linemen or cornerbacks or linebackers were reading, right? He wasn't looking at what is this guard doing? What's his first step? Where is it placed? Is it in the right spot to be on the outside shoulder of the nose tackle or be on going across the face of the defensive tackle? Is it, is he making the right step to, help with a block and then shed to go to the linebacker? This is something that I find highly encouraging to get back to what we talked about in the first theme about making the offense better so it can become a top 10 offense. That these guys, they're looking at what these linemen are actually doing, and they're looking at it, they're identifying it, and they're coaching it. Thank you. That's what I want to see on this offense. I want to see these offensive linemen get the best coaching, maximize what they can do, and then to destroy defenses physically, not only schematically, but physically. And I think we can do that now with who we have. Now, when it gets back to, do I think Reed should be the best center? If he's making the right moves, by all means. But there's different parts to playing center. There's the physical part of, are you making the right moves? Are you taking the right steps? On run blocking, are you hitting the right guys? Are you being able to go downfield? Can you pull? Center pull is rare, but they do that. Can you do that? Can you hit those guys? That is all correct. Can you do that? But also on the center, and then we'll throw in a whole pass blocking deal. Do you have the proper technique not to be forklifted and bulldozed back into Kirk Cousins' lap? But there's also the fact that you're coming up, and are you able to read the defense, right? Identify who's the Mike backer. Identify what sort of set they are in, and then set the offensive line that way as to blocking assignments because of what you see. In this offense, the center is the primary person who calls what's going on the defense. It was the same in the last one. Kirk Cousins does not take on that responsibility. Sorry, guys. He does not. I wish he did. He knows how to read the defense, but he's not the one. He's the one that, tell me what to do, I'll do it. Right? That's Kirk Cousins. We need a good center that can do that. I hope that's Reed. We don't know yet. The team seems high on Garrett Bradbury because he has the ability to do that. He does. He's good at that. The only thing he's bad at is pass blocking, where he gets picked up and thrown back into Kirk Cousins' lap. But I like the fact that O'Connell is actually looking at this stuff. Sorry.
And folks, if you didn't know it already, David Stefano is very passionate about offensive line play.
Yes.
Very passionate. There was a question from Michael Harrington, I think, talking about what is Bradbury's biggest weakness, and I think you already talked about it. Basically, it's power, and he doesn't seem to have the anchor on, particularly on pass blocking, to hold up.
His technique's wrong. Yeah,
just gets
and he can't
push back.
He can't overcome his size, and size being he's 290, right? He's small for a center, quote, but he tends to. His technique's bad. He doesn't constantly keep his feet moving and his center of mass over the balls of his feet. And he tends to plant, gets lifted, and then tilted over. And once he's done that, he's lost. That's Bradbury's problem when it comes to pass blocking. And I hope he learns. If you want to see good technique, look at Ed Ingram's take. He does that well. He's got the feet moving and the weight over the ball of feet. You want it over the ball of feet. And you want to meet, if you can get lower and stand the other guy up, that's great. If not, you want to be equal and you want to keep that there and keep moving. Even if you're losing a little bit of ground, you're slowing it up until something moves side to side, then you push them off. You use like jiu-jitsu. You move them out of the way. And Bradbury hasn't got that. His whole Vikings career yet, I have not seen him do that. I wish he would. That comes with coaching. I was hoping last year's offensive line coach did better than the previous ones, but I want to see that continue. I want to see them get better, and I think coaching is part of that. Whether he has the ability to do that or not, because he's so good at some of the other stuff, I think he could. But it just takes time and learning and dedication and rethinking and breaking bad habits and doing things like that. Whether this coaching staff can contribute to that, I hope he does. I hope they do. Then I don't have to worry about Reed starting at center, right? He can start at right guard if he's the best at that. Or he could be the backup for, Jesse Davis if Jesse Davis is better than that. Or if Ed Ingram finally makes it up there. Or Wyatt Davis, suddenly pops into existence and we see him. I want to see good offensive line play. We haven't seen it in almost a decade. And I want to see it consistently.
Amen. Amen.
So, anyways, I'll get off my soapbox.
That's true.
Speaking of more linemen.
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't want to spend too much time on this, but the other thing that kind of came out of some of the tweets that I had seen was that Udo, last year starting right guard and terrible at it, and Blake Brandel.
He wasn't terrible.
Oh yeah, he was terrible.
When it came to pass block, he blocked more like a tackle than he did as a guard, and then when he got beat, he'd turn his long paw around and grab the guy. Which was
often.
Yes. And he grabbed the guy. But
yeah.
Other than that, he was okay.
Oh, yeah. Other than that.
It's just like, other than Bradbury getting forklift into Kirk Cousins, he's okay.
But, so Brandel and Udo looking like they might be taking over the Rashad Hill role as a swing tackle for the Vikings. Again, these two guys were playing guard last year. Brandel was playing guard, brought him in. He got used in the heavy packages late in the year. Udo was the starting right guard the whole year. But the fact but they were tackles in college, right? And Udo was a tackle up until last year. But them being the swing tackles and taking over the Rashad Hill role, I have concerns about that because they're Blake Brandel and Udo.
Yeah, but Rashad Hill was good coming in off the bench, but he's not the answer. And I think these guys will be fine coming off the bench, but they're not the answer. I have no problem if either one of these guys wins that floater role, the backup, I don't mind. And now that they
Doesn't
have
seem
guard experience, that makes them even more valuable, because if injuries strike like they did in 2016, where we lose virtually the entire offensive line and then we lose the entire second stringers and we're pulling guys out of retirement to play offense, these guys can fit in.
And it doesn't seem like the 6th-round pick, Vidarian Lowe, is in the mix right now for the to be the swing tackle. But Lowe will have his opportunities in training camp and preseason to show what he can do to the new coaching staff. Anybody that gets drafted on the 3rd day that late, as Lowe did, even though he's got long arms, he's tall, he's got everything everything that you'd
thick
want from a
lower
tackle.
body. He's good.
Yeah.
He's built.
Yeah. But
and his image there is outstanding. Yes.
Yeah. But he was picked in the 6th round for a reason. So, but again, he'll have an opportunity. But right now, it looks like Udo and Brandel are the guys that either one of them are the lead to get the swing tackle spot, and that is an important position, because we know that the past 2-3 years, Rashad Hill had to come in and start multiple games and hold down the fort there, while the starter at whatever tackle position it was out with injury. You don't want your swing tackle to be like a like a pylon. So
right,
they've got to be competent.
And I think we're in good position for that. We shall see. That moves us on to our 3rd theme. But before that,
three themes. Oh, Lake Monster Brewing.
Lake Monster
yes.
Brewing. If you are in the Twin Cities, Vikings viewing area, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, you can get Lake Monster beer. Lake Monster makes some of the best and most unique beers you can find in all of Minnesota. It's like finding that 38-inch muskie, right? You fish all day, you're catching nothing but perch or crappie, and suddenly that muskie hits that lure and scares the living crap out of you. But that is what Lake Monster beer is. It'll come up out of nowhere, and it is absolutely fantastic. They live in the breweries in St. Paul, just across the river from Minneapolis. You go there, have some great beer. If you are not there, and if you're not in their distribution area, Matt Lang, the brewmeister, talks about how he is staying local, because the whole model of going national generally doesn't work nowadays. So support your local brewers. You can find local good beer everywhere, and he encourages you to do that. But if you're in the Minnesota area and the Vikings viewing area, and especially in the Twin Cities, go check out Lake Monster Brewing, because they make some absolutely fantastic beer. Trust me, he sent me some. It's good stuff, and I know my beer. Mm-hmm. Still need to hook you up, Darren, though.
Well, I'm patient.
On to theme 3. Theme 3 is viewers' questions.
Yes. Second time we've done this.
And it turns out pretty good, because our viewers are quite knowledgeable and know their stuff. First question comes from Miss Mary. What is your level of concern about Za'Darius Smith suffering a back injury in 2021, and how that played out for him last year with the Packers? Also, Hunter staying healthy this year. And we learned this week that Za'Darius was kept out of practice, I think 2 days out of OTAs, because of injury concern, or whatever you want to call it. Kevin O'Connell played it down, but it turns out he woke up sore. Maybe he doesn't have a sleep by number bed, or a Casper, or whatever the favorite bed is of this time. Are you concerned?
That little tidbit is not great news, but I'm sure football players wake up sore a lot of the time because it's a very even if you're in shorts and pads. But no, I'm not concerned about Zadarius Smith. Like a back injury. I've got my lower back is a problem area for myself, so I know a bit about back injuries, and it's not a pleasant thing. It's probably one of the more painful things you can get as far as injuries go, and it's something that can linger. But
Mm-hmm.
up until this week, I'm not concerned about it too much. I feel that he's got the rehab, he's done the work, he's got a good crew to keep him healthy with the Viking staff. I don't I'm not concerned about it, but I could be proven wrong. With Danielle Hunter, I am even less concerned there because really the two I was concerned last year because herniated disc, anything like that seems very bad. But when he came back, he looked like pretty much the same Danielle Hunter he was.
Mm-hmm.
No ill
Or
effects
better.
from that
Yeah.
or better. And the unfortunate that he got the pec injury. That is something that is another freak injury, and I have no concerns about Hunter this year at all. I think it would be like it was extremely bad luck for him to miss one entire season. Even more bad luck to miss half of the second season.
For a
I
totally
just
unrelated
Yep, unrelated
injury.
stuff. I don't think he's like I just don't see the injury luck for him being bad again in 2022. I have no concerns about him, and really none about Zadarius Smith either.
Mm-hmm. Good. We get Michael Harrington stopping the run. How do you think we do this year? Which brings us to our next question, brought to you by Noble War Prize. Will the Vikings be able to stop the run this year with the interior line set as is? Do we have enough beef on up front and depth? There's your defensive line right there.
Yeah,
Your
I.
starters.
So you think Armon Watts is going to be a starter?
Yeah, I think Tom. I think you're going to see it left to right, right there, or right to
Yep.
left. Tomlinson, Phillips in the middle, and Watts on the other side is your general defensive end, five technique type defensive tackles. You're
Yeah.
that
Well,
to
this
me
is
is right there.
Nobel War Prize with yet another great question. He had two great questions when he did this a couple of weeks ago, and it's a very valid question because really, you see Harrison Phillips there in the middle, and we brought in Zadarius Smith at linebacker, but really, much the Vikings on defense are returning many of the same players that last year couldn't stop the run a lick. So really, yeah, you've got to be questioning how much more improved can the run defense be if you're basically bringing back the same personnel uh, to stop the run again. But the big difference is that one thing. Phillips has very strong run defense grades while he's at Buffalo. I think he was a nice pickup for the Vikings and not a very expensive one either. Um, I think Dalvin Tomlinson will be more comfortable at as a five technique end and not having to
Mm-hmm.
be down in the trenches as much. Armon Watts, to me, I really like Armon Watts, but I find that he's a much better pass rusher than a run defender. So I do have concerns about him. But the 3-4 defense with the disguises, the different looks, and bringing in Jordan Hicks, I think that just the difference in the defensive scheme and what players are going to be asked to do, and again how they can disguise what they're going to do and what fronts they're going to run. I think that could set us up for a much better run defense in 2022, particularly initially in the year when opponents aren't used to, don't have a lot of tape on the defense and what it's doing. I think that I'm optimistic that the run defense will be better. It couldn't get much worse.
I
But
think I think the
I'm not
way
I'm not
I
sold on it.
I think the way these
But
guys play, it is going to improve. You add your interior linebackers filling holes. You have your outside linebackers, your edge rushers, Zadarius Smith, Hunter, setting edges. I think this is going to play a lot better this season than what we saw in the last 2 seasons.
And one thing that Ed Donatel has said numerous times since he got hired is that run defense is, of course, about a lot of it's about tackling, and you need all 11 guys on the field
Yes. To the
tackling,
ball.
rallying to the ball. That's one of the big points of emphasis he's going to be preaching, that this defense is going to be set upon, and we'll see how much of a difference that makes. Because if you watch the Buffalo Bills defense under McDermott and Leslie Frazier the past couple of years, and you see how they rally to the ball, and then you look at what the Vikings did often the past 2 years, there's no comparison.
Nope, nope, nope. All right, that brings us to our next question by Paul H. How about 19? And I'm assuming he's referring to Adam Thielen.
Yes, I like Adam Thielen. What's the question?
As this picture was taken from day 8 of the OTAs, I believe it was, Adam Thielen this is a red zone catch. You see who he's beating. He is beating
Harrison Smith.
Yep, Harrison Smith. He is being one of the best safeties in the league. And he's doing a one-handed Odell Beckham reach and grab, and he did complete the catch for a touchdown in this. I think we are going to see Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's obviously the wide receiver 2 now. Justin Jefferson by far is the better wide receiver. I shouldn't say by far. Is the better wide receiver. And if not the best in the league. Adam Thielen still is a very, 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 very good wide receiver. Where I think he gets used is the fact that he is trusted, one, by Kirk Cousins, and trust for Kirk Cousins is a big deal, right? I think our top 3 wide receivers are trusted by Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins tends to shy away from people he does not, quote, trust, right, that have not proved it. Adam Thielen has, and he continues to do that. Where I see Adam Thielen doing well is I think his touchdowns are going to be up because he's great in the red zone. Yes, Justin Jefferson may get more action, and Ozzy Osborn, KJ Osborn might get more work in between the 20s. But I think when it comes to when the field shrinks, the defense is tight, and Kirk Cousins is working towards the red zone, I think this is going to be the first person he looks to, and it's going to be Adam Thielen. I think we're not going to see a drop-off on the touchdown production of Adam Thielen. We may see a little bit on the, total wide receiver yards type deal, but where it counts in the red zone, I don't think we're going to do that. NWP, No Reward Prize, says he goes for 9 to 1,200 yards, 10 plus TDs if he's healthy. I agree. We may have 2 wide receivers minimum with 1,000 plus yard seasons under the O'Connell offense, and Adam will definitely be one of them.
Nobel NPP brought up the key point there is if healthy, and Thielen has been getting nicked up the past 2-3 years, missing one game, couple of games. He's over 30 now. Harder to recover from those nagging injuries than he did when he was in his mid-20s. So I think that, Adam Thielen's last 2 years has showed that he's really hasn't lost anything. He's got outstanding hands, can catch anything you throw at him. He's still able to get open. His yards per catch, you're not seeing him make those explosive, deep plays he did in his first couple of years. So he's lost a little bit of, I think, the deep threat ability. But he's a guy who could easily get 1,000 yards if healthy. That is my question with Adam Thielen, is he going to miss a game, 2 games, maybe 3 because of a shoulder problem, or the ankle doesn't come around, that sort of stuff, the sort of injuries that tend to nag you when you get in your 30s and you've played a lot of football like Adam Thielen? That's my question. I don't. Yeah, if he's healthy, he's very productive. Might be one of the best number 2 receivers in the NFL. And
Well, I
yeah,
would
he's a
say
great
the
red
best.
zone, great red zone threat because he can get open and he can catch anything you throw at him, no matter how hard and what position, like you're seeing in the photo there. One-handers, we've seen him make awesome catches. So yeah, 19, if healthy, is still a factor.
Yep, and as Philip C. said, KOC said the red zone offense will be priority in camp, as well it should. I didn't in the last regime think of that.
GMAC asked if Thielen hadn't reached his ceiling. I guess he was, maybe there's a little bit of a rhyming thing going on there, but I don't think Adam Thielen's going to get any better. Most guys in there that get past 30 don't. It's just how much is he going to decline? And I haven't really seen a whole lot of decline from him yet.
Well, we shall see. That brings us to our final question from our friend, Mr. Drew Bunting. He asked, give me the starting 6 wide receiver, or give me he says starting 6 of the wide receiver core.
The 6 that make the roster.
I'm betting it's the 6 that make the roster, yes.
Is there going to be 6, though?
That's a great question.
Obviously, the 3 guys up there, K.J. Osborn, Thielen, Justin Jefferson, they've already made the team. They're there. So it's, but I don't know. I don't see the Vikings keeping 6, even though wide receivers are used a lot in special teams. But I think it's going to be, I don't know where, like Jalen Naylor, unless I don't know where he fits right here, right now. It really, I think Ihmir Smith-Marsette is a lock to make the team. As right now, he'd be my favorite to be the number 4 guy, as long as the lower body injury is not super serious and he can play. BC Johnson, and an encouraging rookie year in 2019. In 2020, he quickly lost his starting job, as well he should have. He was a non-factor, injured last year from the get-go, didn't play at all. So he's a bit of a mystery to me.
And last year he was injured, so he's coming off that knee injury, and he's supposedly looking good in camp.
Yeah, I think it's going to be him and Naylor are fighting for that 5th and final wide receiver spot. I think the first 4, Jefferson, Osborn, AT, and then Ihmir Smith-Marsette is your 4th. And then it's between Naylor and BC Johnson for the 5th. Again, we already talked about Albert Wilson, and I don't really see him being a factor unless Ihmir Smith-Marsette cannot play this year. And hopefully he does. But I think Naylor will make. Naylor, if he doesn't make the team, he's certainly going to be a practice roster.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If BC makes that 5th spot, I see Naylor making the practice squad. But, because this is Drew's question, I wanted to throw one little extra bit into it. Drew, this is just for you. We talk about special teams, and a lot of times those lower end wide receivers in the wide receiver room are kept because of special teams. Right now, we really don't have a punt returner. Yes, ISM has done some. I believe BC has done a couple.
Well, right now, KJ Osborn is the guy that O'Connell said probably going to return punts if things remain as they do.
Right, and there's not that many guys there. But we do have a guy that was signed as an undrafted free agent. And as I read, had 63 punt returns in college. This cat, Thomas Henning.
From Appalachian State.
He is a wide receiver, but I think the reason they probably signed him as an undrafted free agent is that he has punt returning experience. And like I said, now, if he can convert to the speed of the NFL, he has a chance. But the whole idea about punt returning is you're dealing with less time to set up because you're looking at the ball. People are on you quicker than they are on a kick return. Ball travels different, left footed, right footed kicker, knuckleball, spiral, different things like that. If he can do that, that may be the guy that sneaks in that last spot. But we'll have to wait and see. It's all going to come down to August when we're looking at preseason games like NWBC. Can't wait till the or PSAD. Can't wait till the preseason. Um, and again, son of Joe and Lisa. I don't know about that, Drew, but I'll take your word for it. That's my guess. Whether they keep six, if they keep six, I think it's going to be because one of the guys is going to be specifically targeted for special teams.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Mm-hmm. And that's it.
That's all she wrote, folks.
Uh-huh. That is the end of it. That's all the questions we got this week. I was sort of surprised that we didn't get too many.
They're in summer mode, David.
Yeah, just like the team, you're just like most everybody. It's the weather's getting nice. They're going out and going fishing, they're golfing, they're hanging out with their girlfriends or whatever it is that turns their crank. And nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Any final words on this fantastic show?
I did want to just mention the passing of Jeff Gladney, David.
Yes.
Very, very unfortunate situation, and I now Gladney's situation with the Vikings and the circumstances on him leaving the Vikings were not very nice. He did get cleared of those charges, as serious as they were. So the legal system did what it did. But yeah, really 25 years old, pretty hard to believe, that this guy was the Vikings. The Vikings picked him after they picked Justin Jefferson. He was highly regarded as a cornerback, and so it's I don't know, it's tragic for somebody that young who had potentially a promising career and a life ahead of him to have it end that way. Car accident, I guess speeding was involved, and the other passenger in the car also died. So very tough situation. And selfishly, the whole thing Gladney worked out and how it developed, that's really part of the reason why the Vikings had to draft two cornerbacks in this year's draft, right? Because Gladney and Dantzler were potentially going to be your starting one and starting two, and Gladney was gone after the first year. So that miss on a first round draft pick by the former regime, it's created a roster situation that the Vikings had to address in this draft. But again, it's sad to see somebody that young in the prime of their life pass away in that way.
And it's just drive within your means and your skills.
Yes.
You may be able to afford that, Porsche or Lamborghini or whatever he was driving. Could be an F-150. But make sure you know the capability of the vehicle and that you are well within your means of doing that. If not, you're at least on the track, type deal. And it is a shame somebody that young passes away. So
young, trying to turn their career around, probably trying to turn their life around.
And they just signed a contract with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
He impressed them enough last year to get, a new contract this year. So, yes, it's unfortunate. But have you got anything coming up this week?
No, David, the usual work rigmarole, but the weather's been awesome here in Yellowknife, man. It's like we got sun every day. It was like 23 degrees today, Celsius, guys, not Fahrenheit, Celsius. So Dave will translate it for you later on.
Which is good.
Anyway, so sun is out. I'm happy. The only thing is God damn, it doesn't really get dark here this time of year. So you better have your dark blinds if you want to get any sleep.
Well, what do you got going tomorrow?
Oh well,
Tennis.
tennis tournament. I won my first two matches, and I'm like, when you're 50 and you enter a tennis tournament and you win your first two matches, and your first thought isn't, "Man, I can win this thing." It's, "You mean I
Oh
gotta
shit,
play
I gotta
again?"
play.
Yeah. So, anyway,
Well,
whatever.
tomorrow I'm going to go see Top Gun, Maverick. I can't wait. The original meant a whole lot to me back when I was growing up as a young man. Already in the military by that time, it was a big deal. I look forward to tomorrow on that. But this week on Climbing the Pocket, Wednesday, and I'll start with Wednesday, Vikings Happy Hour. Matt Anderson and Ryan Ortega said they are having a show. So we get to look forward to drinking more beer, having a good time in prime time, 8 p.m. Central on Wednesday. But before that, on Monday, we have the Real Forno show. And Tyler talked about doing a whole new segment on underappreciated Vikings games. Well, all that's nice and wonderful, except for the fact that he's got a guest on Monday. Fresh from OTA observations, Tyler Fornes has the skinny Judd Zolgad on live Monday night at 8 o'clock on the Real Forno show. You're not going to want to miss Judd Zolgad with the Real Forno on Monday night. And then, of course, next weekend you have me and my good friend and partner over there, Darren Campbell, for Two Old Bloggers. That is your present lineup as I know it. Dave, the producer, for Climbing the Pocket in this upcoming week. What do we say, buddy?
We say Skull Vikings, and thanks everybody for watching.
Skull Vikings! Oh, this is wonderful. I hit the button and it says file not located. Let's see if I can find it. Trying to hit the outro, people, and we're having technical difficulties. Why is it not there? Anyways, and I'm not seeing it. With that, we'll just send it this way. Thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody coming on, and we'll see you next week.